The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee has sent a letter to Eric Holder about his testimony to that committee on May 15th, during which the Attorney General said, in regard to potential prosecution of the press for the disclosure of material, this is not something I've ever been involved in, heard of, or would think would be wise policy. Roughly a week after that, as you know, Jay, the Justice Department acknowledged that Attorney General Holder was involved in the decision to seek a search warrant for the private emails of James Rosen over at Fox News. Is it the administration's opinion that the Attorney General testified truthfully at that hearing?
Based on what you said, he testified truthfully. I think every published report, I think the Attorney General talked about prosecution. Every published report that I've read about the case in question says that it's completed. No further charges or prosecution is contemplated. And again, I would point you to published reports and the extremely large distinction between what's at issue here and prosecution.
Because the FBI affidavit identified Rosen as a potential aider and abettor and/or co-conspirator. That
correct.
Sounds
and I
very
again would point you to
prosecutorial.
published reports that say no prosecutorial action was taken and none is contemplated. Again, based on my reading of reports, so it seems self-evident that that charge is inaccurate.
And on May 16th, the President was asked whether he has confidence in the Attorney General, and he answered in the affirmative. Is that still the case? Does he still
Absolutely.
have confidence in this Attorney General?
He absolutely does, yes.
And as for Syria and the no-fly zone, this talk that Russia might provide anti-aircraft weaponry to the Syrian government, should that be viewed as a potential move by the Russians to provide some kind of deterrent to a potential no-fly zone?
Well, the Russians have responded to questions about this. I made clear yesterday in our gaggle on Air Force One our view of the continued supply of weaponry to the Syrians, and we view it dimly. We believe it's unhelpful and does not in any way contribute to the goal here, which is the reduction and elimination of the violence that's taking place in Syria. And providing a tyrannical regime like the Assad regime with weapons is certainly not helpful to that cause. John.
Just to quickly follow up on the Eric Holder testimony. What he said in that May 15th testimony was with regard to the potential prosecution of a journalist. Did
John,
you sign off on that?
I'm looking for any evidence that there has been suggestion to the contrary. What I have seen in published reports is that that case in question, as I understand it, again based on publicly available information, is completed. No further action is contemplated. So, hypotheticals to the contrary are one thing. Clearly, what the Attorney General said is accurate.
Okay, because I mean, no hypotheticals. I mean, what that affidavit said was, at the very least, Rosen was an abater, abettor, and/or co-conspirator. I mean, I don't know how you would feel to have your name mentioned in an affidavit from the Justice Department saying that at the very least you were an aider, an abettor, or co-conspirator.
A couple of things. I mean, we should be careful not to conflate facts with statements by members of Congress about what they want to be true. The president's
that's a legal document.
But you're talking about this in relation to what the congressman has said. But let's just say a couple of things. One, I can only comment on this case based on the public reports, and I can point to you to what the published reports have said. And there's been some pretty comprehensive reporting on this. Secondly, I think you heard from the president his general concerns about. Again, general concerns, not specific to any cases, about actions that might have a chilling effect on the ability of journalists to do their jobs. And for that reason, he has asked the Attorney General to meet with media organizations. He has asked the Attorney General to review policies and procedures that govern the way the Justice Department approaches these issues, and to report back to him on that review. And I think it's important to allow that process to be carried out, and also to note what the President said and made clear last week in terms of his views of this matter, his views of the balance and the essential proposition that journalists need to be able to operate and do their jobs. That's certainly
the
his
General's
views.
testimony that you've been asked about today. Is it your position he was technically accurate but not fully responsive, or accurate and fully responsive?
I would refer you to the Justice Department for further details about what specifically the Attorney General was saying. I think, based on published reports, it is my understanding that this case is complete and that no further prosecutorial action will be taken. Again, based on my reading of
But the fair
published
reading of the
reports.
question from the member of Congress was, is there anything in this world that you're personally responsible with or overseeing or have an active role in?
I mean,
You
I
believe
would
the
just
Attorney
point you to
General
what
was
the Attorney
responsible
General
on that?
said about his view on whether or not prosecution was an issue or is an issue. And I would simply point you to what the Attorney General said. And I'm saying, based on the published reports that I've seen, I see no conflict between what he said and the published reports.
Because obviously that came up in the testimony provided by officials representing the IRS, part of this administration. Are you satisfied, is this White House satisfied, with the responsiveness of people it sends up to testify about matters of congressional interest?
Well, that's a broad question, but the answer is yes. And if it's specific to this matter, the answer is yes.
But Jay, specifically, even if the Attorney General ruled out that he was going to prosecute Rosen, on the question of a potential prosecution, he said, quote, "This is not something I've ever been involved in, heard of." We know he was involved in it, at the very least. That's the question. Was he not telling the truth on
But
that
again,
point? He
you're-
was involved in it. He
Involved
signed
in
off-
what?
He signed off on the search warrant.
Naming him as an unindicted co
Are you not involved after signing off on a
Again,
search
I would
warrant?
refer you to the Justice Department. But you
These
guys
are
are
his words.
you
He
guys
said
are conflating, the subpoena with prosecution, and I think that it is. Again, I would just point you to what the Attorney General said.
So it is a technical accuracy you're holding on to.
I'm not. I'm saying that based on what I've seen in published reports and what the Attorney General said, I don't see the conflict. But I would refer you to the
Digressing
Justice.
briefly regarding the Attorney General and his efforts to reach out to news organizations for a meeting that's, I believe, supposed to happen at some point this week. Was that done with any involvement from the White House, or was it done, or any pressure, or any encouragement even from the President, or done unilaterally by the Attorney General?
I think the President made clear last week that he wanted this to happen, and he wanted a review of these policies and procedures from the Attorney General. And we think it's a constructive and useful engagement because the President is very focused on and concerned about finding the necessary balance between the need to protect our key national security secrets on the one hand and making sure that journalists are allowed to freely pursue investigative journalism and do their jobs. And I think you've seen that in what the President said last week. You've seen that in his continued support for a media shield law, for which there is renewed support in the Senate, and we commend Senator Schumer and Senator Graham and the others who are pushing on reintroducing a media shield law that is essentially the law that the President, or the bill that the President and the administration negotiated with the Senate back in 2009, which enjoyed the support of media organizations as well as federal prosecutors. We would very much like to see action on that in the U.S. Senate. Mr. Nicholas.
Does the President believe the Attorney General's relationship with Congress is fixable and repairable, or does he think things have reached a point where the trust and confidence between the two have broken down? And does he think that that is largely the fault of the Republicans, or has the Attorney General contributed to this ill will that now exists between them?
I think that the President believes that the Attorney General is doing a good job, and the President has confidence in the Attorney General. There are a variety of matters that fall under the umbrella of your question. The President is committed, and he has made clear to every member of his cabinet and every member of his team that we cooperate with legitimate congressional oversight. And that has been the case in inquiry after inquiry from Congress, and that will continue to be the case. It is also true that, depending on the issue, that there are sometimes attempts to politicize matters that, in the President's view, should not be politicized, but should be focused on by both parties when there's a problem that needs to be fixed. And that's the President's focus.